But what is the Alliance Football?
The Alliance of American Football is a single entity football league of 8 teams playing in 8 cities across the United States, one of which is San Antonio with the Commanders. When I say single entity, what I literally mean is the league owns all 8 teams. So they're all operated by the league, but each team has a general manager and a head coach and then their full staff. We're a full league, meaning every team has 50 players. It's an NFL-sized roster, NFL rule book. Are you okay? Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's an NFL-sized roster, so it's 50 players. We have full traveling staff, etc. We're over 700 players playing in, like I said, in 8 different markets. The premise of the league is to be an alternative football league. What that literally means is from the weekend after the Super Bowl, February 9th, to the weekend of the NFL draft, which is 12 weeks, we will play football all season long on CBS. And the idea being that football exists for 6 months to the day. From the Super Bowl, from August to the Super Bowl is 6 months. And then for 6 months, there's no football of any kind. And if you fill that void, we think there's something there.
Yeah, what brought you to bring up this idea to bring in another football league? Of course, actually, let me say this in another way. There have been many other leagues that have tried to do this. How is this league different than all other leagues?
Well, let's put it more pointedly. Everyone who has ever attempted to do this before, except for one person, the Hunt family, has failed. The attempt to do football as a secondary league is almost always taken on as a competitive situation with the NFL, which is a ridiculous premise. The NFL and its clubs did about $32 billion in revenue last year. In a best case scenario, if I was Uber and I'd raised $10 billion, I'd still be 30 times less than what I needed to do it, or 3 times less. So what we did in our approach was we needed to build a football league that really was complementary to the NFL. The NFL and the NFL fans have expressed desire and need for football to exist another time, and they don't need it to be against or contrary to the NFL. Where we come in from a league is that we allow our players during our offseason to leave and go play for the NFL and come back. So for example, the number 1 draft pick in our draft was Josh Johnson, who we released to go play for the Redskins, and as it turned out, he played very, very well for the Redskins, going to have a great career in the NFL. That's a good situation for us. Kurt Warner is the model, right? He goes to the NFL, he validates our whole system. So I think that was a big part. The other part is validity. Everyone who's attempted to do this before, with the exception of the AFL 60 plus years or 50 years ago, was focused on the business model and not on the football. I have the great benefit of phenomenal investors who see the long-term view, and so their position when I told them what I wanted to do is putting your faith in Bill Polian, who will build a football league that is about the quality, which you see in our coaches. Our coaches and GMs alone have over 475 years of NFL experience. This is the most football-centric, skill-based version ever. We spend a lot more money on our football than we do our marketing, which is different than everyone else who's tried to do this before.
Yeah, I was going to say, how important was it for you to bring in those top-flight NFL personnel guys, especially from the coaches to the executive level, to sort of validate everything that's going on?
That really is the whole business. The whole business is the idea of bringing in these top-flight football people and then getting the adage, the overused cliche in sports is if you build it, they will come. The premise was if you built high-quality, top-flight football, the rest will follow on. People watch the NFL first and foremost because the quality of the play is exceptional, and then everything falls in line after that. Most people who have attempted to do this before, just their business model was, if I just put football on the field, everything else will just work out, and that's not the case. You really do have to invest in putting good football on the field.
And from the players, what kind of talent can the fans expect from who's going to be on the field?
98, so we have 640 players that are here in San Antonio starting training camp. So all month we have training camp here in San Antonio. 98% of our players have played in the NFL in the last 18 months, either on a team or a practice squad. So this is quite literally the closest iteration to NFL football that's ever existed as an alternative. More so even than the AFL 60 years ago. This is D1 talent that played in the NFL that's now moving over and playing in our league for some period of time.
Do you feel like down the line that this could maybe be some sort of minor league system or some, I guess, a place where players can go to then catapult themselves into the NFL?
Look, to me, if I think about it this way, the NFL and its partner clubs, the 32 teams, made about 35 billion last year in revenue. If I told you of any other business that made $30+ billion a year in revenue, but only operated for 6 months, and for the next 6 months you were going to do a complementary version of that league in any iteration, you'd throw money at me if it was anything other than football. The way I look at it is the ecosystem of football is very robust, but you've got this huge hole in the market that needs to be filled. And so we started looking at, if we can fill that market, we don't need to be competitive with the NFL. In fact, and this has been our experience with the NFL thus far, we can have this complementary developmental relationship that isn't negative. You know, our technology business, which is almost 10% of my overall company, almost 80 or 100 people that are just building our technology. The technology we're building isn't just for us. It's for the NFL and other leagues, et cetera, that we're uniquely capable of doing because we're a single entity league that owns everything end to end.
And then I do want to say about training camp and coming here to San Antonio, what has the city meant to you and the league, especially housing everybody before the season gets underway?
Yeah, I mean, San Antonio is probably one of the biggest blessings that snuck up on us in this whole process. When we were looking at cities, I got a call from Mayor Nuremberg, and he and I were supposed to have a 10-minute catch-up on a Saturday morning, and it ended up going almost an hour and a half. And I was blown away by the apparatus that exists in the city and what it can do. There are a handful of cities in the United States that could support 1,000 people for 30 days and all the necessary fields. We have 10 fields, we have all the practice facilities, the training facilities, et cetera. Let alone the fact you need a city that's really crazy about football to even want people to come in and do that. That process has gone incredibly smoothly because of what San Antonio's been able to do it. And then you layer on top of that what the state of Texas has done for us and what partners like the Spurs and our medical partners, those groups have done an extraordinary job pulling together two big groups. And I think that we're eternally grateful for what San Antonio has represented to us.
And then finally, just what is going to allow this league to have the staying power, even when we see other leagues continually still try to bring up new leagues? Because I know we have the XFL, which is floated about there, which I know you know a lot of from its first run around.
You know, one of the great benefits of having brought all this experience together is that I have a lot of guys that won Super Bowls on my team, and some people that won NBA championships on the staff, et cetera. And the one thing that is consistently said to me by everyone that's ever won a Super Bowl is the only years you win Super Bowls are the years you're focused on yourself. And when you focus on everyone else, you start to worry about, well, what about them, and what about this, and what about that? And at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. So we looked at that. I take that lesson to say, like, yeah, there are other competitors out there. There are people who have attempted to do this before. You can learn lessons from the mistakes they made, and you can learn lessons from the things that they did that were very good. But ultimately, it's on you to execute. And so I think the challenge we face, when people ask me, why are you going to succeed? I think that we have a responsibility to build the best house we can, and whatever ends up happening to that house is going to be a function of how much we put into it. And we've put a lot. Between our experience, the funding that we've brought together, this is not funding based on one or two people, individuals trying to do this. This is a consortium of massive investors that have interests that go beyond just selling tickets. The technology, the production, the football, the players, all of the things we're building, it's bigger than just the usual approach.